This is CBN News Watch.
It is Monday, January 7th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Chinese and American leaders began talks today with the goal of ending the trade battle between the two biggest economies in the world. Our Mark Martin is on the story today. He joins us now from the newsroom. Mark?
Ephraim, the talks are being held at the Chinese Commerce Ministry. Both sides say they're optimistic about the potential for progress in resolving the tariff battle over China's technology ambitions. But they have not expressed that their stances have wavered since Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping agreed in early December to put off more increases. Trump implemented tariff increases of up to 25% on $250 billion of Chinese imports. The move stemmed from allegations that Beijing steals or pressures companies to give Chinese leaders technology. China answered by placing penalties on $110 billion of American products. Economic experts say postponing the tariff increases for 90 days, which was supposed to go into effect New Year's Day, might not be long enough to resolve the trade fight. Still, in spite of circumstances, Trump believes a deal can be reached.
The China talks are going very well. I spoke to President Xi recently. I really believe they want to make a deal. The tariffs have absolutely hurt China very badly, but our country is taking in a lot of money through tariffs, a lot of money, a lot of tariffs, steel dumping tariffs and others. But I think China wants to get it resolved. Their economy's not doing well. They're down close to 38%. That's a lot.
Today's talks went forward even though there are tensions involving the arrest of a Chinese tech executive in Canada on U.S. charges. And another incident could also hamper the trade talks. China complained they sighted a U.S. warship in what the government said was in Chinese waters. And Ephraim, a Pentagon spokesman, said the United States will continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere international law allows. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Senior international correspondent Gary Lane is here now with more. We heard the president say the tariffs have hurt very badly. Have they?
Well, they have somewhat. I think he's exaggerating that a little bit. China, basically what brought China back to the bargaining table, the president entered an agreement with the European Union. And then that was followed with a new NAFTA agreement, a revised NAFTA agreement. And China saw the writing on the wall and said, look, we need to get some deal with the United States as well.
Well, we know that
they have hurt a little bit, I think. Yeah.
We know that Wall Street and Washington are, of course, nervous about a possible trade war with China. Can one be averted, and what is the president trying to accomplish here?
Ephraim, the economists that I have talked to have told me that we've been in a trade war with China for many years, and we've been losing. That China has been dumping many of its products on the American market, and in turn, when the United States tries to send products over to China, they put hefty tariffs on those products. So this has been going on for a long, long time.
And we know just last month the U.S. and China agreed to hold off on implementing tariffs. Tell us about that.
Well, they agreed to put a 90-day hold on implementing these tariffs. The president wanted to implement another $267 billion in tariffs by the end of last year, but they held off on that. China would, of course, reciprocate with billions more. But now we have until March 1st to work out a deal. The president today said, well, we may need a little longer. March 1st might not be the correct deadline for that, but the talks are ongoing, and I guess they're making progress. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Indeed. What else is the president hoping for here?
Well, he's hoping not just that American products will have lower tariffs, but in addition to that, that China will stop its intellectual theft of American property. American businesses and companies go over to China, they send a product there, and then shortly after that, Ephraim, they find that that technology has been stolen by the Chinese. Also, there are concerns about cybersecurity, the Chinese hacking into our government and corporate computers, stealing secrets, stealing technology.
Now, you shared a commentary on your show, The Global Lane, about the trade war as well as Christian persecution in China. What were some of the points of that?
This is the worst persecution against Christians in China since the Cultural Revolution. It's very tough to be a Christian in China these days. And the point of this was, Mr. President, you guaranteed or said or promised that you would protect Christians around the world do that. Either your words have meaning or they're hollow words. We need to see religious freedom guaranteed in any deal with China. If not, Mr. President, I'm sorry, but your words have no meaning.
Yeah, so we've got to have both, not either or.
It takes action, not just words.
Indeed, indeed. Now, I want to remind you that you can watch a new episode of The Global Lane on the CBN News Channel. Of course, that is Thursday nights at 9:30 Eastern Time. Yes. Gary, thank you so much.
Thank you, Efrem.
Always appreciate it. The government is entering its third week of a partial shutdown, with weekend talks between the vice president and congressional aides ending in a stalemate. The president is holding out for that $5 billion he says is needed to protect Americans from illegal drugs and human trafficking at the southern border. President Trump now saying the barrier will be made of steel slats and not concrete. It's something the White House hopes will ease negotiations with Democrats who they say voted for a barrier in the past.
This is a very important battle to win from the standpoint of safety, number one, defining our country and who we are, also from the standpoint of dollars. This wall will pay for itself many times during the course of a year. The money we're talking about is very small compared to the return.
President Trump now says that he is still considering the option of declaring a national emergency to try to circumvent Congress. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders tweeted today he will travel to the southern border Thursday to meet with those on the front lines of national security and the humanitarian crisis. Now, despite that shutdown, job numbers suggest the economy is going strong. The latest U.S. jobs report indicate employers added 312,000 jobs in December, with construction and manufacturing, healthcare, and food service industries adding most of those jobs. The average hourly pay ticked up more than 3% from where it was just last year. President Trump's security advisor arrived in Israel on a trip intended to calm Israeli and regional fears over the pending U.S. troop withdrawal from Syria. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl is on this story.
U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton arrived against the backdrop of President Trump's decision to pull 2,000 U.S. troops out of Syria.
Right on your border, we have the problem of the conflict in Syria. We're going to be discussing the president's decision to withdraw, but to do so from northeast Syria in a way that makes sure that ISIS is defeated and is not able to revive itself and become a threat again.
The announcement created concern in Israel and fear among U.S. ally, the Kurds, who have fought against ISIS. But Bolton said the U.S. would take care of its friends.
And to make sure that the defense of Israel and our other friends in the region is absolutely assured. And to take care of those who have fought with us against ISIS and other terrorist groups.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked Bolton for President Trump's support for Israel and offered to show him Israel's northern border with Syria on the Golan Heights.
The Golan Heights is tremendously important for our security, and I think that when you're there, you'll be able to understand perfectly why we'll never leave the Golan Heights and why it's important for that all countries recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights.
Israel captured the Golan Plateau during the last 2 days of the 1967 Six-Day War. Now, Iran is trying to take up positions along that border. For now, the pullout seems to be on hold, but Israel and the region are waiting to see what President Trump's next move will be. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Influential faith leaders are encouraging the Trump administration to continue funding humanitarian foreign assistance programs. In a letter addressed to the President, Vice President, and National Security Advisor John Bolton, the group of 25 says the aid will save lives, help strengthen communities, and ultimately protect our freedoms at home. Jointly writing, development and humanitarian programs are cost-effective and ensure America remains a beacon of hope for those in need around the world. We pray that as you lead our generous people, you will find the way to meet our nation's responsibility to those less fortunate. Now, that funding comes from the International Affairs budget, which makes up less than 1% of the entire federal budget. The bodies of 34 Ethiopian Christians killed by ISIS in 2015 will soon be sent back to Ethiopia, where they'll be laid to rest. According to the Libyan Interior Ministry, last month Libyan officials uncovered dozens of bodies from a mass grave used by the Islamic State. The grave was dug on a plot of farmland near the coastal city of Sirte, which ISIS controlled until United Nations-backed forces reclaimed that city in December of 2016. International Christian Concern reported the group of Christians had been in Libya seeking employment as migrant workers. Senior Catholic Church officials in France went on trial Monday accused of covering up for a pedophile priest who abused Boy Scouts. Cardinal Philip Barbarin appeared in court along with 5 others accused of failing to protect children from alleged abuse by the Reverend Bernard Prenat. 9 people who said Reverend Prenat abused them in the 1970s and 1980s brought the case to court in efforts to hold the French church hierarchy accountable for hushing up on abuse cases. The victims say top clergy were aware of Prenat's actions for years, but allowed him to be in contact with children until his 2015 retirement. If found guilty of failing to report the priest's actions, the church leaders in today's trial could face up to 3 years in prison. Prenat, now in his 70s, wrote letters to some families confessing the abuse and is being tried separately on sexual charges involving 10 children. The Pope spoke to diplomats at the Vatican today, calling the abuse of minors one of the vilest and most heinous crimes conceivable. Pope Francis said next month's meeting of bishops from around the world aims to shed full light on clergy sex abuse and cover-ups. His own handling of some cases has drawn criticism. Orthodox Christians across the world are celebrating Christmas today. Traditionally, the Orthodox Church observes Christmas on January 7th because it follows the Julian calendar. This was Ukraine's first Orthodox Christmas liturgy since the country's church split from Russia. And part of the celebration in Egypt includes the dedication of the Middle East's largest church for Coptic Christians, the Nativity of the Christ Cathedral. The building is a gift to the church from the Egyptian President El-Sisi. He said the new church should be considered a message of peace and love to the world. Orthodox Christians make up about 12% of Christians worldwide. Coming up, new studies by scientists at Yale University show a potential cure for Alzheimer's. We've got more on that coming up next. Stay with us.
God Almighty is a God of blessing. He always wants to bless His people. But how do you get that blessing? And what principles will unlock that secret?
In Miraculous Blessings, Pat Robertson shows you how to open the floodgates of God's awesome blessings in your life.
In order to have a blessing, you've got to be blessable.
Discover what the Bible has to say about God's covenant of blessing, the laws of blessing, and what are the hindrances to the blessings of God.
The words of Jesus, they are as valid as the law of gravity, and if we follow those laws, we will be blessed.
You'll see amazing true stories of everyday people whose lives were rescued and transformed by God's miraculous blessings.
But even the doctors acknowledged that this had to be a miracle.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com to become a CBN partner and get miraculous blessings today.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
New hope for millions of Americans with Alzheimer's disease. Yale researchers identify what could be a cure. A combination of molecules help mice with Alzheimer's recover their memory. The next step now is to test this combination on humans. Meanwhile, scientists are making headway in Alzheimer's prevention.
It's great that we try to develop a cure for this disease, but we know right now, as we have this discussion, that it is preventable. And when we eat a diet that nurtures the gut, it will nurture the brain.
CBN News' health reporter Lori Johnson joins us now with a closer look. So, does it seem like when it comes to Alzheimer's, a cure, we have a long way to go, but there is more hope when it comes to preventing the disease?
That's right. You know, Alzheimer's is so terrible. Most of us know someone who's had it, and it's just beyond awful. And it is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States, and it's the only one in the top 10 that doesn't have a cure. And so that's what's so bad about Alzheimer's, is there's so little hope regarding a cure. But the good news and the headline is that it is preventable, and scientists learn more and more every year about ways that we can actively prevent Alzheimer's. And they think that the reason that prevention is so encouraging as opposed to a cure is because, you know, once you have the brain damage, once the brain cells have died, it's kind of hard to reverse that situation. Yeah. It's much easier to prevent it from happening in the first place.
So what are your thoughts on this Yale discovery that we've seen here?
Cautiously optimistic. I mean, you know, as a health reporter, I've been doing this for 10 years, and every year we get these promising cures, and then oops, something happens, and it doesn't really work the way that scientists had hoped. Right now, the only kind of intervention that they have pharmaceutical-wise will prolong a life for maybe about 3 months. So hopefully this one will be what we've been praying for. We need to continue to pray for a cure. It's only been successful in mice. They have to test the toxicity right now and then start testing it on humans. So it's a long way off before we might be able to see results from it.
So it's one to watch. I'll be watching it for a while.
Absolutely.
What's the connection between diabetes and Alzheimer's?
Huge connection. And so this is a problem because so many Americans are diabetic. But if you have diabetes, your risk for Alzheimer's increases 66%. That's huge. And this gets back to prevention. The good news is diabetes is preventable. It's reversible. And they actually call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because there's an insulin uptake problem, insulin resistance in the brain. And so the best way to reduce diabetes, prevent getting it in the first place, is to stop eating so much sugar. And so it's the beginning of the year, and it's a great time to really cut back on sugar and those processed carbohydrates, the white breads, things like that. It can go a long way. Also, exercise is a great way to get the blood flowing in the brain, to do the cardio exercise 20 minutes a day. That can go a long way to preventing Alzheimer's. And we're going to be talking about gut health for the entire show for Healthy Living, which is tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 9:30 Eastern Time. The whole half hour is going to be devoted to gut health. There's a direct connection between good health in your gut and good brain health, including Alzheimer's.
Indeed, you're looking at the information there on your screen. You can find more health news right here on the CBN News Channel with new episodes of Healthy Living. They air every Tuesday night at 9:30, and then again throughout the week, or of course on demand anytime. You can always find that at cbnnews.com. Lori, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Still ahead after the break, how one former Muslim immigrant in Sweden is helping lead others now to Christ.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
We had 4 jobs that didn't go right, but, we didn't waver in our faith.
That's when God put on my heart that we needed to do the well.
Within a couple of days, we got an insurance refund check that we had no idea was coming.
And here we are, this year, it's just boom.
You go out and help other people, and you get rewarded for it.
Get Pat Robertson's latest teaching, Miraculous Blessings.
The huge numbers of Muslims immigrating to Sweden have become a serious threat to the nation. But one of those immigrants is now the Christian pastor of 2 churches, and she's led more than 1,500 Muslims to Christ. Dale Hurd brings us the story from Stockholm.
No one would have thought a Muslim woman in Iran simply trying to stay alive in an abusive marriage would one day lead 2 churches in Sweden, lead more than 1,000 former Muslims to Christ, and be invited to speak before the Queen of Sweden. As a young woman in a Muslim culture, Anahita Parsan was powerless and insignificant. Her only hope was that she might one day find a good husband, and she did. But he died suddenly in an accident, and she found herself trapped in a second marriage so violent she expected to die.
I didn't know anything. It was darkness. It was a very bad life.
Although she writes about the abuse in her book Stranger No More, Parsan doesn't like to talk about it.
It's not easy about speak about that.
You were beaten with a shovel.
Yes.
As a battered wife, living with bruises and cuts all over her body, Parsan eventually tried to kill herself with pills, but she was revived at a hospital. Anahita's daughter Roxana remembers when her dad threatened to slit her throat when she was just a small child.
I remember we had gotten cookies. My mom baked cookies. We got cookies. And then we went for another turn, like we wanted more cookies. Super normal. And we ran up and we're like, more cookies, more cookies. And he came up with a knife, put it to my throat, and he said, ask for cookies again. She was striving to just survive for us, just survive to make a better life for us. And maybe that was something God had implanted in her so that she would have something to hold on to.
Anahita Parsan's journey to Christ and across 2 continents is the stuff of Hollywood movies, and one that would include several brushes with death. Parsan, her husband, and 2 children fled Iran through the mountains to Turkey in 1984, where she and Roxana faced more brushes with death before landing in Turkey's notorious Agri prison. They would finally make it to Denmark, where she divorced her still abusive husband, and she heard the gospel for the first time. Then she moved to Sweden, where she and her 2 children would walk into a church and announce that we are Christians from now on. Anahita entered the ministry in 2012 and has led more than 1,500 Muslims to Christ. She not only leads 2 churches, but trains other churches on how to reach and disciple former Muslims like these, who fill her church each Sunday, hungry for the God who loves. Parsan believes this was foretold in Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 39. But in the latter days I will restore the fortunes of Elam, declares the Lord.
It is about Elam, and Elam is Persian. When I read that, I know it. It's about us. It's about our life. And it's amazing. God told Jeremiah that time, and it's happened just now.
But Muslim immigration has also made Sweden a home for dangerous radicals. And Parsan told us she's received death threats and lives with the knowledge she could be killed.
It's a free country, but it's dangerous too.
Were you saying that sometimes you wonder if it's your last day?
Sometimes.
As a young woman living what seemed like a hopeless existence in Iran, Anahita Parsan saw no plan and no purpose in her abusive marriage, only random violence. But God had a plan for her to one day be a leading pastor in Sweden.
I think God loved me, and He was in my life from the beginning. He's my everything. I think it's, wow, it's beautiful.
Dale Hurd, CBN News in Stockholm, Sweden.
Anahita Parsan's book is called Stranger No More. It is available wherever books are sold. Still to come, a funny encounter between the president of a private Christian university and Justin Bieber. We're going to show you right after the break. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Biola University President Dr. Barry Corey got more than he bargained for while waiting for a valet in Beverly Hills this past week. In a video there you see from TMZ, the Christian University president can be seen getting into a moment of music and picture taking with Justin Bieber, who also happened to be waiting for his valet. Bieber was singing Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing to his new wife, Haley, when he turns toward the president and reaches out his hand. The two then take a quick selfie. And after the humorous moment, Corey said he didn't think much of it in the moment, but on reflection, he told CBN News, when someone reaches out to you, you reach back. It's kind of the thing to do. We need more of this in our world. Now, for more on Corey's full statement and the encounter, visit cbnnews.com. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.